towards the end of our mission, things were winding down, and we got what's called a Red Cross message, and they told me that my grandfather, I guess he'd had a stroke previously. I guess he'd had another stroke. I don't remember the details. Basically, he was in the hospital and he was dying, and they wanted me to come back, and so I filled in the paperwork, and they said my presence had been requested.
At this point, when his grandfather was very sick, he had been studying and training to get his next promotion, and he had, I think it was just one last interview, because he had gone through a series of interviews to get the last promotion. And whenever his grandfather was basically on his deathbed, the Army refused the Red Cross request to have him come home so that he could be with his grandfather and, if nothing else, attend his funeral.
I was able to see him before he died via Skype. My wife went all over the hospital trying to get the laptop working and everything, and he couldn't really talk because he had a stroke, but I could tell he was kind of waiting to talk to me because, he saw me through the video and I saw him, and he was like trying to say something, and shortly after that he died. So I don't know, I think he was hanging on to, but like I said, he was the whole reason I was in the Army, because he was in that formative period when I was 16, 17 and helped me set everything up.
When he filled out his paperwork when he was, I think, 17, going into the National Guard, or it might have been this last time going into active duty, he had put down that his parents, were his parents, his guardians as a child, and he wasn't really aware that when they're asking you that question, they're asking you who raised you, basically. So if this person is sick or dying, you have the ability to come home. And had he known that, I know he would have probably put his grandpa, because that was the most influential male role model in his young life.
Yeah, after that, I wasn't really focused on my Army career anymore. I just kind of wanted to get out and work on, my own goals and stuff.
What is the T? Train. And what's that? L. Good job. What about? Ooh, this is good.
Well, I was getting out of the Army. We'd been trying to have a baby. I wasn't expecting it to happen. We found out the day after I finally got my honorable discharge from active duty that she was pregnant.
He decided to come in this world kicking and screaming and never stopped.
It was long, and it just seemed like it just blurred all together. I was nervous. They had her hooked up to a machine with 3 different drugs, and they kept speeding her up and slowing her down, and I was sweating bullets.
I was in labor for 46 hours, and 4 of those hours were just straight pushing. So it was difficult, but absolutely worth every second. And it's amazing how quickly that all fades when you have this little baby to hold in your arms.
Well, he's 2.5. He was born on February 1st, and he has got characteristics of both mine and his mother's personality. He's all our karma coming back on us for all the stuff we did to our parents. He loves to climb. He loves to jump. He's got a temper. I grew up in kind of an unstable environment. I have a temper, and I try to shield that from him as best I can. But I guess some of it's genetic, because he, he goes off. He's like, yum, 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 I don't want to use my fork. No, use your fork, buddy. Oh, don't. Young man.
No, use your fork. He is so brilliant. And he loves books. That's one of the things that I definitely see his daddy in, is that he will sit there in the morning when he gets up. He'll usually come running in here and bring a book. Go to the next page. Look, there's a book.
He's just in love with life, and he's just learning new things every day, and kind of helps me try to not be so jaded, and just try to look at stuff through his eyes, and you know, see the world as a good, magical place, you know, and I try to make that for him as much as I can, so. Well, I was never super well-adjusted civilian anyway. Like I said, you know, I was kind of odd man out growing up, and we always moved all the time. Coming out of the Army, it's a lot like that too, because you still have friends that are over there and dealing with stuff.
We had discussed a bunch of different options after he got out of the military as far as what we wanted to do as a family. Those changed throughout, you know, the months and years since he's been out. But he had, I think, more than anything, a struggle with that sense of direction where he didn't, it was now up to him which direction his life was going to take. And that was kind of scary for him, I think.
And really, at first, it was pretty rough. It's hard because there's less money that you have, you know. Our car got repoed. I was still a manager at Mr. Jim's, you know, for a while when I came back, but it just wasn't enough money, even being a manager with full time, you know, to keep up with bills and stuff. And when she was pregnant, I mean, God, you know, that was before I was in school or with Equest or anything, and it just seemed really like isolated and stuff. And
he was trying to take on the world on his own, you know, be the head of the family and take his family in a direction that would be successful. He always had this, I can do better. I'm not doing good enough for my family. And I think with Equest, that sense of peace and well-being and living in the moment especially was really brought out in him, because especially when you work with horses, you have to be right there in the moment. You can't let your mind wander.